Your Ram Navaratna is here with one more interesting topic on employers' obligations under labor code. Well, you are all aware there are four labor codes which are going to be shortly implemented, which the country is widely talking of. In this short video, I have made two parts. Part one with two codes, that is code on wage and code on social security. And in part two, which will come separately after this video, that is other two codes I am going to cover. In this video, the objective is to provide quick snaps on the obligations and responsibilities of the employer under the labor codes. Before that, employers should be ready with these answers for the questions. Are you ready with the impact analysis and have evaluated the changes? Do you know about the new standing order provisions and the benchmark? If you have a planning of closure, layoff or retrenchment by any means, have you factored in the impact whenever it is applicable? If trade union exists, have you studied the rules of engagement under new labor codes? Next question is, have you examined the role and powers of inspector cum facilitator? Have you explained the risk upon CEO and MD and manager? How do you structure your contract labor? Any restrictions for your HR plans? What is the impact on profitability if the salary structures are not realigned? For these are the questions the employer has to be get ready accordingly, make provisions and be ready and go further. Now, coming to the code on wages, it is a new definition has been done in that. Quickly to give a quick snap, contract labor is defined here, and the contractor is also defined, and the contractor is one who undertake work through the labor and also supplies continued labor, that is mere human resource, that is a contractor. Then most important is wage definition is redefined and the made, and under that definition, the new definition of wage in the course requires that 50% of the gross wages should be paid under the heads of basic wages, DNS allowance and retaining allowance. This means that the industry should hereinafter get prepared to pay higher amount of contribution towards EPF and the gratuity amount. This is the impact the employer should be aware in a nutshell. And the employee definition is being introduced, which was not so hitherto. The employee means any person other than apprentice engaged under the Apprentice Act, employed on wages by an establishment to do skilled, semi-skilled, unskilled or manual, operational or supervisory managerial position. Manager is also included in that. Okay, that is for hire or reward, etc., etc. It will all go in that. So therefore, the definition of employee is wider and the protection of law is available for all the cadres. Hitherto it was only for the labor. And some exclusion clauses are also given to the employee, okay, that you can go through in that. Further, the employer includes contractor also. This is one most of the important aspect in this. Then as far as the payment of the minimum rates of wages are concerned, in due course, the central government may become floor wages, while the labor being concurrent subject, though the state government fixes whichever is the higher wage, that will all prevail. And the state and the central government, they are going to have a advisory bodies also, and based on that, it will all continue and fixation of minimum wage will be there. And about the components of the minimum wage, I have already told you which employer should be aware. Earlier, HRA component was a part of the minimum wages. Now it is all dropped. Then wages for the overtime. Overtime shall not be less than twice the normal rate of the wage, which employer should be aware that there is no any change. And the time limit for the wages, it is on or before the expiry of the seventh day of the succeeding month only. Earlier it was 10th also for where there were more than 1000 employees. This employer should be aware. Now, irrespective of the organization or the number, the employer is obliged to pay on or before 7th of the month. And one more important thing, you must be aware, employer should be aware, where an employee has been removed or dismissed from service or retrenched or resigned from the service or became unemployed due to closure of the establishment, the wages payable to him shall be paid within 2 working days of his removal, dismissal, retrenchment, or as the case may be, even on his resignation. This is an impact on the employer and he should be aware. Next provision is payment of the bonus act, that is allocable surplus, everything is defined. Here in this bonus act also, not much change. Otherwise, central and the government may come out with a benchmark figure which is now currently 21,000. That may change, we have to wait and see. Time limit for the bonus, that is 8 months from the completion of the accounting year. And further is inspector come facilitator is also there. He has to act in that function, but one must be aware about the duties and functions and of the inspector. And also the facilitator may advise the employers and workers relating to compliance with the provision of this code. So this service employer has to do. Inspect the establishment as assigned to him by the appropriate government. One more thing employer should be aware is in this code of wages rules, highly skilled occupation, semi-skilled, unskilled definitions be aware. That have been defined, explained widely. Floor wage, I have already talked to you. 3 important steps in the wages, that is in the definition, and wage exclusion clause is also there. So thus, under the code of wages rules, the forms that have been specified under the central rule is Form 1, Register of Wages, overtime, fine, deduction for damage and the loss. Form 4, Employee Register. Form 5, Wage Slip. Schedule E, List of jobs under unskilled, semi-skilled, and highly skilled category. They must be aware and go through that one. Now coming to the second code of the labor code is on social security. Here also various definitions like employee and they are all same, factory, family, gig and home-based and platform worker, which we are all seeing new one. Platform worker is also covered in that. And this code deals with the Provident Fund and ESI. What is the coverage? What is the definitions, applicability that one can see in Schedule 1. ESI provision is also, though the benchmark is 10, but highly hazardous or life danger occupations, ESI can cover, okay, without any threshold and can be benefited. And earlier, if any employer fails to pay the contribution or remit the contributions of the employer and employee would have been waited for the benefit. But now under the ESI will do that, then recover from the employer. Payment of the gratuity also, there is not much change. The nomination form is changed. That is what the employers henceforth be aware and ensure that. Maternity Benefit Act is also, as far as the benefit is concerned, not much change, but the employer has to maintain the register. Under the Employees Compensation Act, the employer has to notify, but here he has to pay the deposit, otherwise failing to which you will end up in the penalty of percentage is defined there, which he must be aware and discharge as and when case will come. Then government will frame the scheme for unorganized workers. About the schedule 1, I have already told you that the employer should go through for the benefit and detailed applicability. And under the social security scheme code, different forms. Form 3, that is nomination or fresh nomination, modification of the nominations under the Gratuity Act. Then Form 4, application for gratuity by an employee. Then Form 10 is a certificate of medical officer for practitioner, okay, for all the treatment purpose. Then notice of claim, Form 11, all those have been given in that. And form number 12, complaint to the inspector cum facilitator. This is for the employee. Like this, various formats they have been already, they have notified, one can go through that. But what is important for the employer is Form 22, that is a register of women employees, which was not so now, that is the employer has to maintain. Then Form 23, that is unified annual return. Under this code, the employer has to submit. And form of reporting of vacancies to the career centers, that is what so far we used to say employment exchange, that is Form 15, and Form that is 25, and 26 form is ER, that is employment information. These are all the, what I can say, procedural laws or the forms by way of returns forms and all that the employers to be aware and that he has to ensure. Well, firms, these are all in a very gist way the employer's obligations. The employer should be aware under the Code of Wages Act and on Code on Social Security Act. For other two codes, wait for my video number 2, wherein you will see other obligations of the employer under other two codes. Well, dear friends, on this I have already started running various training modules and training programs on this, on labor codes and the preparedness of the employer under this labor codes. If you need any thing in that, if you need any assistance or if you need any programs in that, our services, you can write to our email ID, and our website is also mentioned here, recorded here. And for more details, you can log on to our HR Resonance channel videos also. Well, friends, if you are feeling useful about this video, don't forget to subscribe to our HR Resonance channel and post your observations and the views in the comment box of the video channel. Thank you very much, friends. Thank you for listening, and wait for and visit for my second video on other two codes.